June 27, 1996, Wilmington, Delaware. We need to start right outside a pretty nondescript apartment complex. There's a green Volkswagen Jetta parked there. It belongs to Anne Marie Fahey, the scheduling secretary for the governor of Delaware. And if you knew Anne Marie, you knew that the state of her apartment inside was just wrong.
Oh, it was completely out of character. I mean, Anne Marie wasn't just neat, she was obsessively organized.
Right.
Her friends actually called her Anal Annie, which, you know, it sounds harsh, but it was affectionate. It just described someone who needed order to feel safe.
This is a woman who stacked her coins with all the heads facing the same way.
Folded her dirty laundry in the hamper. That's the level we're talking about.
So when her family comes to check on her after a few days of radio silence, the fact that her apartment is a mess isn't just messy, it's a siren.
It really is. Her purse is there, her wallet is there, but Anne Marie is gone.
And that silence kicks off a case that really ripped the facade off Wilmington's high society.
It absolutely did. We're looking at a collision here between a young woman trying to regain control of her life and a powerful, wealthy political dynasty that thought it was, well, above the law.
But the reason we're doing this deep dive today isn't just the who or the why, it's the how.
Exactly, because usually cover-ups fail because someone talks or someone leaves a fingerprint.
This one failed because of physics.
Mm-hmm. Specifically, high school physics. Archimedes' principle, to be exact. We're going to unpack how a man who controlled politicians, judges, and his entire family found himself completely helpless against the laws of buoyancy.
Okay, but before we get to the science, we have to look at the suspect. Because from day one, police knew this wasn't random. All eyes turned to one person, Thomas Capano.
Yep.
And I want to get a read on this guy because on paper, he sounds like the ultimate catch.
On paper, sure. In 1996, Tom Capano is basically the king of Wilmington. He's a wealthy lawyer, former state prosecutor, legal counsel to a former governor.
And his family.
The Capano family, yeah. They're these massive construction moguls. They built half the strip malls in Delaware.
So plenty of money.
Tons of money, but, and this is a key detail, they were considered nouveau riche. You know, they weren't the DuPonts. They had the cash, the power, but they had a chip on their shoulder about respect.
And Tom was the golden boy.
He was the one who went into law and politics while his brothers, Jerry and Louis, ran the construction sites. Tom was the polished face of the dynasty.
But behind that polished face, the sources paint a pretty dark picture. He wasn't just confident, he was obsessively controlling.
That's the word that keeps coming up, control. He had to manage every aspect of his environment, and unfortunately, that included the women he dated.
Which brings us to Anne Marie Fahey. She was 30 years old. Capano was 47, married with 4 daughters.
They started an affair in 1994, and looking at the details now, the power dynamic is just staggering.
It makes you uncomfortable just reading about it. You have this wealthy, older, politically connected man, and then Anne Marie, who was living paycheck to paycheck and came from a pretty traumatic background. And by 1996, she's trying to get out.
She is. Her diary was found in that messy apartment, and it documents this heartbreaking shift. It starts as a romance, but eventually she realizes she's trapped.
She had a new boyfriend, right?
Yeah, she started dating a new guy, a nice accountant named Michael Scanlon. She wanted a normal life, but Capano just wouldn't let go.
There's that entry in the diary where she calls him a controlling, manipulative, insecure, jealous maniac.
That is not ambiguous, no. And she wrote, "I have finally brought closure to Tom Capano." But Tom Capano didn't accept closure. He was stalking her, driving past her house.
And there's this detail from Salon that adds a whole psychological layer. Anne Marie suffered from severe anorexia.
And the experts suggest that her eating disorder was her way of reclaiming control. When Capano was suffocating her, the one thing she could control was her food intake.
Which brings us to the last night she was seen alive, Thursday, June 27th. They go to dinner at a place in Philadelphia.
Ristorante Panorama. And it's a grim scene. The staff remembered them because they barely spoke. Anne Marie looked haggard and gaunt.
And she refused to eat.
Which, in the context of their relationship, that was a massive act of defiance. She was rejecting his money, rejecting him. For a narcissist like Capano, that was likely the trigger.
So she vanishes after that dinner. The police go to Capano's house, and this guy, he doesn't lawyer up, he doesn't panic, he invites them in.
It's pure arrogance. He admits to the dinner, says he dropped her off, and that's it. He lets them look around. And initially, the house looks clean.
No body, no bloodbath.
Nothing. He thinks he's smarter than them.
But they notice things, small things.
Yeah, like a bottle of bloodstain remover in the laundry room, a love seat, and a rug are missing from the great room. But the biggest red flag comes from his credit card records.
The shopping list.
It's just bizarre. In May, he buys a Beretta .22 handgun, though he makes his mistress, Deborah McIntyre, buy it for him.
Of course he does.
And then in April, he buys a cooler, a 162-quart Igloo marine cooler.
Wait, a marine cooler? I thought you said this guy was a lawyer in suits. Was he a big fisherman?
That's the thing. He hated boats. He got seasick. He didn't fish. So why is a man who hates the ocean buying a cooler big enough to hold a human being?
That is terrifying. But here's the frustration for the family. For over a year, that's all the police had.
A missing rug and a cooler receipt. No body, no murder weapon. Capano is just walking around free.
It was a standoff. He relied on the silence of his circle. He assumed his brothers, his mistresses, they would all protect him.
He thought he was untouchable. But the weak link in a conspiracy is always the people you treat like pawns.
And that brings us to the brothers, specifically Jerry Capano.
The black sheep to Tom's golden boy. In November 1997, the feds raid Jerry's house for drugs and guns. Jerry is looking at serious prison time.
And suddenly, protecting his arrogant older brother doesn't seem worth it.
Jerry flips.
And the story Jerry tells, I mean, it sounds like a movie script, but it's so much stranger.
It's horrific. Jerry tells them that on the morning of June 28th, the day after Anne Marie vanishes, Tom showed up at his house at 6 a.m.
So early.
Super early. He's driving his wife's Suburban, and in the back, there is this massive cooler chained shut. Tom tells Jerry he's being extorted and needs to dispose of the extortionist.
Which Jerry knows is a lie.
He knows, but he helps him anyway. This is the power Tom held over them. They drive to Stone Harbor, New Jersey, load this heavy chained cooler onto Jerry's boat, the summer wind, and head out to sea.
60 miles out.
To a place called Mecco Alley, a deep-water shark fishing spot.
Okay, this is the moment, the deep dive into the physics of the crime. Because Tom Capano has a plan. He thinks, I have a body in a box, wrapped in chains, I throw it in the ocean, it sinks, game over.
That was the plan. So picture the scene. It's the middle of the ocean. Tom and Jerry heave this 162-quart cooler overboard. They watch it hit the water. And instead of disappearing into the depths,
It floats.
it just bobs there on the surface.
But how? It's filled with chains and weights, isn't it?
This is where his lack of, practical knowledge completely failed him. It's Archimedes' principle. An object floats if it displaces a weight of water equal to its own weight.
And that cooler was huge.
Massive. 162 quarts of volume means it displaces a huge amount of water. Plus, the cooler itself is plastic and foam insulation materials designed to be buoyant.
So the upward force of the water was stronger than the downward pull of the chains.
Exactly. The density of the entire package, cooler, body, chains, everything, was still less than the density of the seawater. It would not sink.
I can't even imagine the panic on that boat.
Yeah.
You're 60 miles out, and the evidence is literally refusing to go away.
So Jerry grabs his shotgun, and he starts shooting the cooler. He figures, if I put holes in it, water gets in, air gets out, it sinks.
Which sounds logical in a panic.
It sounds logical, but it's wrong. Even if the cooler fills with water, the human body is slightly less dense than salt water. We float. The foam insulation of the cooler floats, so now you just have a waterlogged, bullet-middled cooler that is still floating.
So shooting it did nothing.
Okay. Nothing. So now Tom Capano has to do the unthinkable. He realizes the cooler is the problem. He hauls this bullet-riddled box back onto the boat. He opens it, and he removes Anne Marie's body.
Oh my God.
He takes the heavy anchors from the boat, wraps them around her body, and throws her back in. This time, weighed down by solid metal, she sinks.
But what about the cooler?
That is the fatal mistake.
Yeah.
In the chaos, Tom takes the empty, shot-up cooler and just throws it back into the ocean. He probably thought it would float away to Europe. He wasn't thinking.
He threw the murder weapon back into the crime scene.
Essentially, yes. And the ocean didn't keep his secret. On July 4th, 1996, less than a week later, a fisherman finds a white igloo cooler floating in the water.
You're kidding me.
Nope. He sees it, sees the bullet holes, and thinks, hey, free cooler. He fishes it out, patches the holes, and uses it to store his catch. It sat on this guy's boat for months.
That is unbelievable.
Eventually, news of the investigation spreads, and the fisherman hears they're looking for a cooler. He hands it over, and the forensics were devastating.
Let me guess, the barcode.
The barcode matched the store where Capano bought it. The bullet holes lined up perfectly with Jerry's story about using the shark gun. It was physical proof that Jerry wasn't making this up.
It's like the ocean spit it back out to make sure he got caught.
It really feels that way. And once Jerry talked, the dominoes fell. Investigators went back to Capano's house with better tech. They found microscopic blood spots on a radiator and the woodwork.
And they matched Anne Marie.
They did. The DNA probability was 1 in 11,000. Now, that sounds low to us today, but in 1996, with a degraded sample, that was huge.
Plus, why would any of her blood be in his house?
Exactly. It was a lock.
So we get to the trial. And this is where Capano's personality really goes off the rails. Most lawyers would tell their client to shut up. Tom takes the stand.
He thinks he can charm the jury, and he spins a story that is so offensive. He admits he disposed of the body. He had to, but he claims he didn't kill her.
So who did?
He points the finger at his other mistress, Deborah McIntyre. He claims she broke into his house, found him with Anne Marie, and in a jealous rage, the gun went off accidentally.
He blamed the woman he sent to buy the gun.
Right. He claimed he dumped the body to protect Deborah because he loved her so much. It was the mistress defense.
Did anyone buy that? I loved her so much I framed her for murder in court.
Not for a second. Deborah testified she wasn't even there, but what really sank him was the prison plot. While he was in jail waiting trial, he tried to hire a hitman, another inmate, to break into Deborah's home.
To kill her?
To terrorize her. He wanted the hitman to go into her bedroom and shatter the mirror she used to look at herself in.
Shatter the mirror. That's incredibly specific.
It's psychological warfare. It showed the jury this wasn't a man who loved these women. He wanted to possess and destroy them. It completely undermined his "I was protecting her" defense.
So the jury sees through it all.
They did. On January 17, 1999, Thomas Capano was convicted of first-degree murder, the first capital murder conviction in Delaware history without a body.
He didn't get the death penalty in the end, though.
He was sentenced to death initially, but it was overturned because the jury wasn't unanimous on sentencing. He got life without parole. He died in his cell in 2011.
It's just the waste. Anne Marie was 30, and she was erased because one man couldn't handle the word no.
That's the core of it. But this case is such a fascinating study in the limits of power. Tom Capano thought he could control the narrative of a murder the same way he controlled a political campaign.
But he forgot about the real world.
He forgot that nature doesn't care who your family is. He forgot that plastic is lighter than water.
That image of the cooler bobbing in the waves?
Yeah.
It really stays with you. A symbol of the truth refusing to be drowned.
It is. He had the money, the connections, the legal mind. But a $50 plastic ice chest and a basic law of physics completely dismantled his perfect crime.
And gave Anne Marie Fahey the justice she deserved.
Exactly. We never found her, which is a tragedy that never goes away for her family, but the science ensured her voice was heard loud and clear.
A sobering reminder that you can't spin your way out of gravity and buoyancy. We're going to leave it there for this deep dive.
Just one final thought. Tom Capano wanted to be remembered as a titan of Delaware. Instead, he's remembered as the man who was outsmarted by a picnic cooler. It makes you wonder how many other perfect crimes were ruined not by brilliant detectives, but just by the stubborn, unyielding laws of the physical universe.
Something to think about. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.